you're not doing anything. Maybe you're just waiting for a ride, waiting for a friend, but automatically your hand does this. Scroll, tap, swipe. It's not because you need to, but because you just can't stand still doing nothing. And that's the question. When was the last time you actually felt bored? Today, I want to talk about something simple, but actually very important. Boredom. Not something complex, not something technical, but something so ordinary that we often ignore it. And maybe that's exactly why it matters more than we think. Because sometimes the simplest things are the ones that shape how we live every single day. Because without realizing it, in this digital era, we are slowly losing the ability to feel bored. Hi, my name is Nanda Hafizhah, and I'm going to talk about we are losing the ability to feel bored. So, the scariest part is, this change is happening quietly. No one tells us it's happening. No one warns us. It just becomes normal. We don't question it, we don't notice it, until one day we realize that being alone with our thoughts feels uncomfortable. Back then, before smartphone and social media, empty moments were normal. We would stare out of the window, daydream during a trip, or simply sit and do nothing. But now, every empty seconds get filled. There's a 5-second pause, we immediately grab our phone. No entertainment, we look for it. No stimulation, we create it. We live in a world that never really gives us a chance to stop. And without even realizing it, we've become addicted to stimulation. And it's not because we choose to, but because we've been trained to. Every notification, every short video, every piece of content is designed to keep us engaged, to keep us scrolling, to keep us consuming. And slowly, we lose our tolerance for silence. Even a few seconds of doing nothing starts to feel uncomfortable. If we compare the past and today, the difference is not just the technology, it's how we experience empty moments. Back then, when there was nothing to do, we simply let our minds wander. We daydream, we zone out, we sat with our thoughts without feeling the needs to escape it. But now, the moment there's silence, we feel it. We scroll, we swipe, we check notification almost automatically. It's no longer a choice, it's a reflex. And this small shift from sitting with our thoughts to constantly escaping them is where the problem begins. Because when something becomes a reflex, we stop being aware of it and we stop questioning. So instead of asking, why am I doing this? We just keep doing it again and again and again. So, what boredom really is? We often think of boredom as something negative. Boredom is a waste of time. Boredom is unproductive. But psychologically, boredom is not just a feeling of being tired or uninterested. Boredom is a mental state where the brain is not receiving external stimulation, so it begins to become active internally. And this is where something important happens. When we feel bored, the brain starts reflecting on experiences, connecting ideas, processing emotions, even generating creativity. Many great ideas are born, not when we're busy, but when we are still. So in reality, boredom is not the problem. The real problem is boredom is disappearing. It's almost like boredom is a doorway into deeper thinking, a doorway into understanding ourselves. But today, we rarely allow ourselves to step through that door because before we even feel bored, we escape it. So, what actually happens when we feel bored? Most people think nothing. But in reality, this is where some of most important mental processes begin. When there is no external stimulation, our brain turns inward. And that's where we start to reflect.
We begin to ask ourselves questions, what we feel, what we think, what really matters. At the same time, the brain starts connecting ideas. These things that doesn't seem related at first suddenly make sense. This is where creativity comes from. Not when we're constantly busy, but when we finally have space to think. And maybe, most importantly, boredom gives us time to process our emotion, to understand what we've experienced, instead of just moving on to the next distraction. So, boredom is not empty, it's actually full of unseen processes. And when we remove boredom from our lives, we're not just removing silence, we're removing the space where thinking happens. And without that space, we begin to lose clarity. Our thoughts become fragments, our feelings become unclear, we experience things, we don't fully understand them, we move forward, but without direction. So, what is the impact of losing boredom? We keep consuming, but we don't process. And this creates a gap between what we take in and what we truly understand. A gap that keeps getting bigger the more we stay distracted. So, the first is shallow understanding. We keep consuming information, videos, news, content, entertainment, but we rarely stop to process it. In the end, we know a lot of things, but we don't truly understand anything. The second is loss of self reflection. Without pauses, we don't have time to ask, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? What actually matters to me? We become busy reacting without ever understanding ourselves. The third is dependence on distraction. The more we avoid boredom, the harder it becomes to face silence. Eventually, stillness feels uncomfortable, and we need constant distraction. And the fourth is a shift in how we think. From being humans who think to humans who simply react. We no longer process, we just respond to stimuli, scroll, swipe, like, and repeat. And over time, this doesn't just affect how we think, it affects who we become. Because the way we process the world shapes the way we see ourselves. Okay, so imagine your brain as a glass. Every day we keep pouring water into it, information, content, experiences, but we never stop to actually look what's inside the glass. So as a result, the water keeps coming in, but it's never truly understood. Boredom is like a pause that gives us time to observe, understand, and organize what's inside that glass. Without that pause, everything just passes by. And eventually, the glass becomes full, with no clarity, but with noise. And when everything feels noisy, it becomes harder to think clearly. So, what we can do? It doesn't mean that we have to abandon technology, but we do need to start creating empty space again. Here are a few simple ways. The first is train yourself not to immediately grab your phone. When you're waiting, when you're trying, you have to wait something, try to stay still. Let your mind wander. The second, schedule time without distraction. For example, 10 till 15 minutes a day without any gadget, just sit, walk, or think. The third, enjoy activities without extra stimulation, like eating without watching something, walking without music, or sitting without scrolling. And the fourth is realize that boredom is healthy. Boredom is not the enemy, boredom is space for thinking. At first, it might feel strange, even uncomfortable, but when we're not used to it anymore, because we're not used to it anymore. But over time, you'll start to notice something. Your thoughts become clearer, your mind feels lighter, and silence no longer feels empty. In this digital era, we have access to unlimited information, but because of that, we're losing something very important, the chance to pause, the chance to be still, the chance to think, and the chance to truly understand. Maybe the problem isn't that we're too busy, but we're too afraid to feel bored. So, starting today, try to give yourself something simple, not entertainment, not distraction, but something we've been avoiding for so long. Something quiet, something still, something that allows you to finally hear your thoughts again. Empty space, because that's where we truly begin to think. Thank you. And maybe that's also where we begin to truly understand ourselves.